Welcome to Thriving Thoughts, a podcast for women who believe in thriving in any and every circumstance. Every week, we have candid conversations with remarkable women about how they silence the little lies in their minds and overcome their shoulds, coulds, and not enoughs with big truths. I'm your host, Dr. Sherry. Now let's thrive. Hey friends, welcome to episode 2 of Thriving Thoughts, Fierce and Free, with my special guest and beautiful, amazing friend, Kerri Spencer. You guys are going to love her, I know, just as much as I do. She is a tough love, remarkable woman, let me tell you. She puts the F in fierce and feisty. Kerri's going to share with us during our conversation how she's navigated, literally, y'all, a minefield of lies with some major life transitions like selling her business and caring for her aging mom. Things that I know many of you can relate to and you're anxious to hear about. So go ahead, turn up the volume, be inspired and encouraged by my conversation with Kerri Spencer. Hey, Kerri, thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of Thriving Thoughts. I cannot wait for the listeners to hear what you are going to spill all over them today.
Good morning. I am excited too.
Yeah, girl, I'll tell you what. I was thinking about how we met. And you and I met because, well, we met through a mutual friend, right?
Yes.
And we actually spoke. We were keynote speakers at the same conference, the Shine Conference. And oh my gosh, here's the most awesome thing that I remember about that. One, you shared a little bit about your past, which I'm sure you're going to share about here today. But two, you really, what I loved about you is that you didn't focus on your past. Like I was listening to, and I'm going, oh my gosh, like she's been through it. Like she's got some serious stuff, right, to share and encourage and inspire other women. But you don't focus on that. And so that's how we met. And when I was speaking, because I spoke after you, and when I was speaking, I remember like I just had this connection. And so every time I made like what I thought was like a really cool point, you know, I was like looking right at you, for confirmation, for affirmation, because that's just how really what I consider you to be as a thought leader. I really do. Like, you're so good at it, and you're a tough love lady, and I love watching your Facebook lives. So just introduce us to you and tell us who you are and tell us why you decided to come on the show today.
Well, gosh. Yes, I loved the Shine Conference. I loved meeting you there and hearing all the things that you talked about. So I'm Kerri Spencer, and I live in the Midwest. I'm 51
Where at
years
in the
old.
Midwest?
I am in South Bend, Indiana. So Notre Dame.
Oh, nice. Now, is Indiana really flat?
Pretty much. Yeah. and I always say that I'm in Indiana, but I actually live in Michigan now. So,
do you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just over the line in Michigan, and it is beautiful out here. The greenery, like just the blue skies, and just, I mean, it is really beautiful. People that live here don't quite, I think, enjoy it as much as I do. I don't know why. They kind of complain or something. I don't know. So I have been a hairdresser since I was 18 years old.
Wow. Now, wait a second, Kerri. I got to ask you a question because this is something I need to clear up, and I'm sure that other women need this cleared up too. Whenever I say that I'm having an appointment with my stylist or my hairdresser, I don't know how to respectfully refer to the amazingness of that role. So how would someone refer to you? A hairdresser or?
Hairdresser, hairstylist. I mean, I don't get offended by any term. I mean, I have clients that are in their 80s that still call me their beautician.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
That's going back.
Pretty secure in what we do, I guess, myself. I would say maybe hairstylist.
Yeah. Wow. So 18 years old is when you started, and you're 51 now. Woo, you got some seasoned stuff to share with us. You know, the other thing I was thinking about is, I don't know about you, and who does your hair?
A lot of times myself.
Oh,
I'll put my color on myself, and then I'll beg somebody in the salon to give me a nice haircut, probably about twice a year.
oh,
When
wow.
I wear longer hair, so it's a lot easier to get away with letting it
Right.
go than, with a shorter cut. So
Right. Absolutely. So when I'm sitting in that chair, I don't know what comes over me, but it's like I'm in my own personal therapy session. And
absolutely.
so I think it's incredible that you and I, from very different perspectives, have very similar experiences with talking to women. Me, as I used to practice clinical psychology and do psychotherapy with women one-on-one. Well, that's really what you're doing while you're doing
Yeah.
their hair. You're making them look beautiful on the outside and you're working on the inside, right?
Right. And oftentimes, I'm working so much more on the inside than the outside. It's just a platform, which is really interesting. I never dreamed of being a hairstylist. I just didn't want to go to college.
Okay.
So I went to beauty school because my girlfriend went to beauty school, and I just thought that would be a good way to get out of school early and just go have
Yeah.
some fun. And I even oftentimes describe myself as a mediocre hairdresser, because sometimes I look and I'm like, well, that looks nice, but it is just so much more. When you put your hands on somebody, and from the time I put the towel around their neck and put the cape on, it's like I can just see the face relax,
Oh,
and
wow.
and then we just start getting in the conversation, and I mean, I have clients that I've been taking care of for 20 years.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I have brand new clients that come in, and it's the things that they share with me, with a total stranger, is pretty amazing at times, and sometimes
Well,
it's too much information.
right, right. And it's interesting that you say that it really opens this door when you are, as a woman, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Kerri, but as a woman, when I'm in a place where I'm getting self-care, which is not really self-care because somebody else is taking care of me, right? But I'm taking time to take care of myself. There's this guard that's let down. And sometimes that extra information does spill out, right? So
Right.
you mentioned that for you in your experience, so gosh, that's been what, 30 over 30 years
Over
for you
30 years.
now. Yeah. You said, I often find that we are working on the inside more than we're working on the outside. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What does that look like? And how do you navigate that?
Well, it's kind of funny because when my clients come in, you have to think about this. Like, some of my clients I see more than I do my best friends, my family. People come in every 6 weeks or so. So we'll start talking from the minute they walk in the door. And it's like we can't wait. Like, my clients can't wait to share with me what they want to talk to me about, like as if they
Yeah.
are really coming for their therapy session.
Right, right.
And so
I
I'll get them
can't
in.
wait to see you. I'm
I
so glad
know.
I'm here.
I get him in the chair, and then we're just chattering away about what's happened since we last saw each other, and then I have to go, okay, hold on, what are we doing with your hair today? Like, I have to literally stop our conversation so that we can actually decide, do we want to do the same thing we did last time, or
Right.
whatever. And then I have to go, okay, hold on, I got to go get your color, and I'll be right back. And so and we just just so, and I was thinking about this. People tell me I have an incredible memory. And I do remember when, like, somebody comes in and they're talking to me about maybe, a recent relationship thing or a medical issue or something like that. And then I'll say, well, what's happened since the last time I saw you with blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, you remember that.
Wow.
And I think I figured it out. Michelle teases me and tells me I have an elephant brain. I think what it is I am right in that moment. Like, I'm not daydreaming about my own life or my own problems.
Right.
I'm totally focused on what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I can recall that because it's so important that people listen,
Yeah.
right, and hear. I would not have the clientele I have, and I would not have the bonds with women I have, I believe, if I wasn't in tune to that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that I talk to about things and they'll say, oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. And then I'm
Were
like,
you listening to me, friend?
or just what you wanted to say back to me.
Right.
But yeah, it's, I call it behind the chair.
Yeah.
It's my behind the chair talk. And I
I
get
love it.
so many ahas every day from my clients. And then
Wow.
I look back to myself and go, what is the lesson here? What am I supposed to be learning from this?
Yeah. Kerri, oh my gosh. So I just had this inspiration for you. Behind the chair, like when you start your podcast, my
Yes,
friend, Behind the Chair with Kerri Spencer.
that
Love
is.
it.
It is.
Yeah.
That is it.
That could be awesome. Now, so what we talk about on this podcast, it's an opportunity for women to do a couple of things. One, to understand that what goes on up here in their minds, in their thought worlds, as I refer to it, that sometimes there are places up there that are so dark that we don't share with other people. We don't share with our closest friends or family, but we might share with our hairstylist, right? And
Right.
and we do it kind of like tentatively, like we think, oh my gosh, is there something wrong with me? Does anybody else think this? And so we don't want women to feel alone. We want them to know that there are other women out there who experience these things. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to that some of the maybe common thought challenges that you've heard floating across behind the chair.
Right. Well, I would definitely say that I hear a lot of, other people can do that, but I can't do that. It's too late for me.
Ick, ick, ick.
Yeah, I can't learn something new. Being
I
vulnerable.
can't.
Yeah, and or my husband thinks that's a bad idea, or my friend told me not to do that. And so I'm constantly reminding them, what do you feel? What do you want to do? What
Yeah,
lights you up? If you're not causing any harm or taking anything away from anybody, I suppose,
right,
who cares if you fail?
right.
Who cares? Because
Well, and I would say they do, right?
yeah,
Because when I think that's the connection. I think we always say we worry about what other people think or whatever, but the truth is I sometimes ask myself, if I put myself out there, if I do something new, if I push myself outside of my comfort zone and I fail, what does that say about me? Right?
absolutely. I think I'm constantly judging myself in my brain of what this is going to look like. With my recent change in my salon,
Oh,
that
okay. Speaking of that, girl, get to it, but finish your thought and then get to that change.
yeah, that was huge, and it actually 2 years in the making.
Wow.
When my lease came up, I've had my salon for 14 years. I've moved 3 times, so I'm not afraid of change.
Sure.
But I was afraid of people thinking that I failed. That
And like that's why you were moving because this wasn't working.
right. It was so big. I was a little tiny salon, and then I got bigger, and then I got really big. And then I started thinking like this isn't where I want to be. I don't want to be this big person boss over people. I've never wanted to be. This is even weirder. I never dreamt of even owning a salon. I never even wanted a salon. It just kind of fell into my lap at the time that it came along. It just fell into my lap. And so I said, well, okay, we're going to go with this.
Right.
And the company I was with, which is actually my parents' business, we were downsizing. I basically downsized myself out of that. I bought my little salon, and then it just got bigger and bigger. And then I had employees, and then I had
Right.
all the things that went with that. I never wanted to be a boss. I just wanted to
And
be.
here you were.
Yeah, here I was in a 3,000 square foot salon with, 8 to 10 employees, doing all of these things, like literally like wearing myself out, exhausting myself, and not being able to give what I really wanted to give to my clients behind the chair, because
Right.
a lot of times I found myself doing 2 and 3 people at a time.
Yeah.
I couldn't focus. And I just said, okay, something has to change. So I went to booth rental and got rid of all employees. And
Okay.
then I became the owner of the salon, but just more of a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
they wanted me to help them, I could help them. And if they didn't, that was okay. And
Right.
we would just kind of do that. And then 2 years ago, my lease came up for renewal and I was going to make that decision. And then somebody said to me, what's the matter? Can't
Mm.
make it?
Mm. Mm. Now, was that
And
somebody close to you or was that a stranger?
that was actually a client, which was
Wow.
weird. And I don't know if it was her own fear or, I don't
Yeah.
know
Like
what that
angry, like you're
was.
leaving me. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and that cut me in the spot that, like I have a no, like I am so strong. I can do anything I want to
Yeah.
do and I will make this work if it kills me.
Right,
And
right.
it almost did at times.
Mm.
So I went ahead and through that pressure, I re-signed a lease for another 2 years. So for 2 years, it's been on my mind. And then when the lease came up for renewal, I said, nope, I am getting out of this lease. I am not re-signing it. I literally went to the new place, signed, put my money down so that I could not, I took action
Right.
so
You
that
committed.
I
Yeah.
could not back down from that or I was going to lose some money. I just had to do it all. And I did it that way before I even told my people in my salon or anything what I was doing.
Right.
So I had that accountability. And I am so excited. I am counting down the days. I'm in my salon till
Wow.
the end of September.
Okay.
Finally got to tell everybody about it. And I
Yeah.
actually have somebody that is so excited about buying the salon from me. And that was another thing that was scary for me.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
And that was so scary too, because I didn't want my salon to just go by piece and sell like a
Sure.
garage sale.
Mm-hmm.
I had so much love for it in so many ways. And I
Mm.
wanted somebody else that had the passion
Yeah.
for helping people like
Yeah.
I did. And it's this girl, I say girl, she's 51 too. And she's been
Wow.
working on her career for 25 years to get through beauty school, to raise a family. And then now here she is. And she wants to
Wow.
take over the reins.
What a gift for both of you.
Yeah.
What a gift for both of you. I mean, okay, so I literally have goosebumps right now. And here's why. And this is just so serendipitous. I did not know that about you, that this was a 2-year decision. So and it's funny that you said you never wanted to be a salon owner. When I went to grad school and then I got licensed as a clinical psychologist, I never wanted to be a therapist. And then I found myself in a traditional psychotherapy practice. I found myself with 6 employees at one point. I found myself behind closed doors, nearly the entire day working one-on-one. And it was great. And I loved it. And I was good at what I did. And I really thrived on those relationships, like you were talking about, being behind the chair, except they were on the couch across from me. And, and I loved it. And it wasn't my it. It wasn't my passion. And even though I closed my, I'm bringing this back around here in just a
Right.
second, but even though I closed my psychotherapy practice a couple of years ago, do you know that I hung on to my psychology license for 2 years? And it was 2 years ago, and I had the voices of other people in my head that I was embracing. It wasn't their fault. Right.
Yep.
They were speaking out of love and fear and concern for me. And I had these voices that said, are you sure? Shouldn't you hang on to that just in case? Right. And what came up for me was not that. I was immediately able to go, no, like, I'm sure about this. But what came up for me is what your client said to you, which was, because you can't make it. Because you can't make it if you don't have this. How are you going to make that succeed if you don't have this? And so, interestingly enough, June 30th of this year was the last day that I was licensed as a clinical psychologist. And I feel unshackled. So I want to ask you, this gift that you're giving to yourself and you're moving on, and I want you to share with us what you're doing, what's next. Do you feel unshackled? Do you feel liberated in some way?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
feel so free for the very first time in so many years. I do. I feel like that tiger that's been in a cage and my
Mm.
feet have never touched grass. And I am so
Oh,
excited
gosh.
for the next steps. So the next step
Yeah.
is I am renting a small 1-person suite
Okay.
in a salon I guess you would call it like kind of like an incubator. There's 25 suites. So
Okay.
there's a lot of other professionals in there, and it's a closed door. I will be in there by myself. It's about a 10 by 10 room, all enclosed. So I can open the door and be with the other stylist and have all the chatter if I
Yeah.
want it, or I can close the door and it can be just me and my client that's the thing. In a salon, everybody's chiming in. You're having a private conversation with somebody in the big open space, and then somebody chimes in, or you can't really be candid with each other so much because other people are
Right.
around. In fact, I'll go to my salon on Monday, which I'm working today, because we're actually closed. So I'll work with certain clients with no
Okay.
other stylist in there so that I can do that. And then I am still taking my clients that have been my people that I've had
Right.
for a
Right.
long, long time. I'll
I'm
be able
sure
to
they
work.
are so grateful for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I have about a base of about 75 to 100 clients that will go with
Wow.
me. I will be relieved of so much overhead and stress so that when I actually go out of town and go on a business trip or go to speak at a conference or something, I can actually shut the door, walk away, and not have to worry about working double time before, double time
Right.
after.
Right. And making sure that everything else is going swimmingly while you're gone.
Exactly. So, and then I
Wow.
am a thinning hair specialist. So, I also do an online product that
Wow.
you're aware of. And
Yeah.
so that was literally like the heavens opened up for me when I found that, because I love network marketing. I love to
Yeah.
work anywhere remotely. I want to
It
be on
gets
a
a bad
beach.
rap, doesn't it?
It does, but it is amazing, and I was
Yeah.
built for it. I love it, and I want to be able to go. I'm just, my personality is that I love to be social, and I love to be around people, and I love to be helpful,
Yeah.
but I also like to earn money. And
Yeah.
when I go on vacation, I'm not really on vacation. I'm kind of somewhere in between there,
Yeah.
but I love it. I love commerce. I love it,
Yes. Yes. I love what you're
and I can
doing. And go ahead.
and I can help. I don't want to stand behind the chair too many more years, but I still want to help women with their self-care. I want to, help women, mentor them, be their friend tour, do those
Yeah.
things. And this just broadens my reach so
Yes.
much with being able to do this. So,
Right.
it's, I don't know. I love it. I
I
love things with a purpose.
Yeah. Well, and you are a doer, right? That's
Right.
one of the things that I love about you is that I'm more of a let me help you reflect and understand what's going on inside there. And you're like, okay, that's nice that you reflected. Now let's get busy, right?
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
love that. I love it. And there's so much room at the table for all of us to be able to share our gifts and encourage women. Now, I know there are probably, I want to back up just a second. I know there are probably some women out there that are listening and they're thinking, okay, you and I both shared some stories of, a passion or a vision that we had that we kind of sat on, right, for a couple of years and didn't do anything with. And we had these lies for me, like, gosh, what is this going to look like? Am I going to be able to do it? Do I have what it takes? What if I fail? Those are some of my lies. And you mentioned, that a client said to you, what, you can't make it. But I wonder if you can walk us through, because I know there are some women thinking they're living in that middle, in that in between right now. And they're thinking about making a shift. It might not be a career shift, but they're thinking about making some shift. And they've been thinking about it for a couple of years. And they're missing that little link of that connection between the reflection and the doing. So I wonder if you can share with us a little bit about how you spoke truth to that, how you spoke truth to the lies that held you back for a couple of years, that led you to the place of being this unleashed tiger with its feet in the grass. Hey, sisters, do you love the encouragement, motivation, and truth speaking you're hearing on today's episode? Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Now, back to the show.
Well, first of all, I definitely surround myself with a community of women and thought leaders.
Yeah,
I know that I cannot do this alone. I have some trusted, open and honest friends and people that I can go to and talk to. I've done so. I guess in my mind, I was like, Kerri, look what you've done so far with this. there's this, you can't stop now. You'll
And
be fine.
yeah. And you can't deny that that's true. I love what you said, that one of the strategies then is to kind of look back and go, look at all the other times that you stepped out. Look at what happened from that. And don't you want that feeling again?
Absolutely. And for this, with the career, it seemed really scary, but I knew what it was for me. It was my ego. My ego, I had gotten so big and gotten so out there. And then it was almost like I was semi-retiring, but I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
this is really the beginning of a completely new chapter for me that's going to allow me to do so much more. The things that I've overcome in my life from the past were way more scary than this could ever be. And
Can
so I
you?
had to keep talking
Yeah.
to myself about that, because it's like
Yeah.
all the things that I've done and stepped away from, this really was so small, but I was like, in my mind, I was getting spun out
Yeah.
with listening to other people and the negative things, and people that put themselves in a box. So they
Yeah.
wanted to put me in a box.
Yeah. And I think that what was important for me to learn about that is that people don't want to keep you in a box to make your life miserable. They really believe this little lie that keeping people in a box promotes safety and security and peace, right? And all of those things. But really, it's like this tiger in the cage going, let me out. And if you come close to me, I'm going to bite you because you're keeping me in here.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I had people, well, and then for me in the salon, the people that rent from me. So that was a huge thing too. And that was the other thing was, what am I doing to them? Like I started, so I have 8 people in there that are renting from me that have to find a new spot if I didn't
Right.
find somebody to come in and take
Right.
over. And so that almost held me back, because then I talked to my Kerri, these are grown adults.
Yeah.
They can figure it out,
Yes.
just like I figured it out. And it was hard. I mean, some of them cried.
Yeah.
Some of them, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, I'm sorry. And so, but I have to live my life. I have to
Right.
go with what I want to do. And then I'm, because I'm a doer, I have been finding places for them and encouraging them to look at the place I'm going.
Right.
I've encouraged them. There are a few of them. I said, why don't you buy the salon from me?
Right.
And then you could stay here. And then I actually had one guy, which really got me fired up. My one guy said, well, honey, he's in the salon. He said, this is nothing more than a used equipment sale, basically a junk sale. And
Wow.
that was, I mean, that was just like, I mean, that almost got me to where I like almost turned back. You know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
almost like, oh, I'll show you what kind of thing this is. I'm a toughie. And
Right.
I almost went back in the other direction when he kind of insulted me in that. And then this, the lady that's thinking about buying the salon contacted me, and she started telling me that she's followed me for 14 years. I didn't even know who she was. And she's followed me from
gosh.
salon to salon to salon. She said, she came in and she's like, I love this. I'm not changing the name. I want to keep it the same. I'll eventually do things different. I want to keep because I have lots of inspirational signs all over, which
Yeah.
is, I have to have a lot of physical things around, like the signs and the things like that, to keep me going, keep me motivating. Because one of the other things that happens when you own your own business is you are the top banana.
Yeah.
And I was not being fed by anybody in there.
You were feeding. You were feeding,
Yep.
feeding, and that can be very depleting.
Yes, the people in the salon and my clients. And you come home and I just had nothing else to give. And so she gave me a blast of air and a confidence that I needed, and,
Yeah.
just told me how awesome I was and what she's watched, and, and all those things like that. And it was like, she was like the wind in my sail then.
Yeah. Well,
That got me kind of over that hump.
yeah. Well, and I would say that what she did is she reminded you of what you already knew about yourself. Right? Like you said, with the signs that you have all over the salon, these inspirational and motivational things, which I don't even call them inspirational or motivational. I call them truths, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
and we need external, especially as women. Oh my gosh, we get so wrapped up in our own minds. We need external reminders of the truth that's already in us, right? And so it's not like when somebody says something encouraging to us that it's like, oh, really? That's me? It's, oh, yeah, that is me. Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes. And I tell people all the time when I say something, ladies in my chair, oh, I love your dress, or I love you, oh, this old thing,
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
it's thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, and it's,
Yes.
it's,
Ladies, if you're listening, say thank you when somebody compliments you.
yeah, take it anywhere you can get it. Right.
That's right. That's right. So, hey, Kerri, I want to switch gears here for a minute because I want to ask you about something that I think is important to a lot of women our age. Our parents are aging right now,
Yes.
and they're getting up there, and many of them are still independent, and many of them are not. And I know for daughters in particular, because of our nurturing nature, and that's just something that comes naturally to us, to most of us, we often find ourselves in the driver's seat of figuring out how to navigate that aging and what to do and where to go and looking for resources. And I know that you have been on a little bit of a journey with that yourself with your mom. What I would love for you to do is to walk us through how you have navigated this aging process with your mom, how you have navigated you taking on a role of figuring out, where to go, where to steer the ship, where to look, what the resources are. And if you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the lies that have come up in your mind for you during that process.
Yeah. So, mom lost her partner of 49 years, which was my stepdad, 2 years ago. And like my brother and I are both, I think because of a lot of the way we were raised, we are both doers. So we immediately snapped in and we moved mom to a condo 2 years ago where she had people her own age and she could, play cards and
Right.
everything. So for about 6 months, everything was wonderful. She was walking her dog. She was getting girlfriends, something she was never allowed to do. She was very isolated in this abusive relationship. So I was thrilled. I feel really bad sometimes saying that when we got the phone call that he had passed, that was probably one of the best days of my life. Not so much for my mom, but I was like, finally, we're free.
Right.
We're free of what this man has done and the shadow that he's cast over our lives. And so for me, I just was
Wow.
like, if I move mom right out of the house and get her into a new environment, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for about 6 months, it was okay. And then I think the dust settled. And then mom started getting worse, started getting symptoms of dementia, started getting, falling, using a walker, all those things like that. So, my brother and I, like, what are we going to do now? So kind of speeding up a little bit, she now could not go out of the house anymore. She gave up her keys. She's not driving. Now, my mom is only 72 years old.
Young.
So
Yeah.
very young for what I'm experiencing with her.
Right.
I would say that she's probably got some stress-induced dementia, things that we're working on. So she was no longer able to go outside. So she was pretty much becoming a prisoner of her condo, which meant that her only socialization was if somebody came over and visited her.
Okay.
If somebody comes over for an hour, you've got 23 hours left in the day that you've got to fill. So what I saw my mom was telling all of those like in her mind, all the lies and all the things. And she was super concentrated on her health, and every single thing that could possibly go wrong with her was going wrong with her. So
And it's interesting, Kerri, that you mentioned when your stepdad passed away, and there was this sense of hope, of freedom, of liberation, and if she was in this isolating relationship, right? And even though she's now freed from that circumstance, I think what I would imagine has happened for your mom is that now she's got all of those experiences and all of she's not free up here in her mind.
No,
and that sounds like that's what you're seeing.
Yeah. So I begged and begged and begged her to get into some therapy because they did diagnose her with PTSD.
Okay.
He definitely had all of it, like everything. There wasn't just one, it was everything. Right. And including, like, he was a gambler too. So he was not a drinker and he didn't do drugs, but that was his gambling was the addiction.
Right.
So he left mom with really nothing. as far as money other than the sale of the house. So that's why my brother and I moved her and kind of were really trying to stretch her money.
Right.
So for us, we were free. Like we could actually get our mom back, but mom is just tormented. So we went to, we finally got in. So this is crazy. I begged her doctor to give us a referral for therapy for over a year and a half. And they kept trying to give us, meds and different things.
Wow. Yeah.
They're, here, let's try this antidepressant. Let's try, we did neurology, we did brain scans, we did everything. Nothing is wrong with her. But if you saw her, you would think that she has Parkinson's or dementia. They cannot find anything wrong with her. That's how crippling inside her mind what has become with her. So, and then he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, if we say anything bad, it's, we're terrible. So, at first I was very on that, and now I've really backed off. So I got her into therapy finally. She went to 3 sessions. We had a little bit of a meltdown where she was going into the emergency room. About every other week, she was calling an ambulance, and just anything for attention.
Right.
So we got her into therapy. I took her to her 3rd session.
I would imagine, too, that the attention was an escape from what was happening in her mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the therapist, I went in and I said, okay, should we reschedule? And he said, can I talk to you for a minute? So we went in there and he said, she doesn't need this. He said, what the best thing for her to do would be in a community, because we had been talking about it. And at first she kept saying it was, old folks home and a convalescent home and everything negative that she could think of being in a community with other people her age, so that she could be out and do all the things she needed to do. So she actually told him that she was excited about it now, that she had turned a corner. And I remember when we turned that corner, because I was approaching it like, oh, mom, get over it. Let's, So then I started being a little bit more gentle with her, because she is not my personality, which she reminds me all the time. Everybody's not like you, Kerri.
Right.
She says, everybody's not like you, Kerri. And, like sometimes, thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
But so we got her excited about it, and we looked. We went to 5 different places, and we were looking and trying to figure out what needs could be met for mom, what she could afford. You have to sell everything, spend. I've learned so much, which now I know I'm equipped with that to help other people as they go through it.
Yep.
So we were kind of decided on a place. And I wasn't sure about it. My instincts were telling me that probably wasn't the right place. But you start thinking about money and you think about, things like that. And so I got a phone call from a lady that was helping us navigate, which I definitely am a seek out an expert person.
Yeah.
I definitely will, I don't have to know everything.
That's great advice.
Other people know stuff. Like go to people that know. So she called me and you're not going to believe this, Kerri. She says, the Hearth at Judy Creek, which is a place here in town, which is a beautiful place. They have now started to accept Medicaid, which means when mom runs out of money, she won't have to move.
Wow.
Because that's what happens is they go in, they run out of money, you move them.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And if we know anything about Medicaid or public assistance, they're not always the nicest places.
Yeah.
So I was just really worried about that. Now get this. The place is walking distance from my new suite.
Oh my goodness.
Like literally, have you ever made that decision in your life where things just lined up so well that you just know that that's divine? I could not, we didn't even look at the place. And she called me and she said, they just started accepting these waivers. We're going to see if we can get your mom in there. And we went, and it's beautiful. And I love it. She's going to love it. We took her there. I cannot wait for her. But the therapist said she needs to be around because she got to get out of her own head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that constant in your own head.
And we need other people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And share experiences. And my mom, by the way, was a hairdresser my whole life.
Okay.
So, and she was so helpful with everybody else, but she didn't help herself. Mm-hmm. And people would have never known what was going on behind closed doors unless you were family.
Yeah.
And it is almost like she lived a double life. And so I think that's
I can imagine that would have been tormenting in and of itself.
Yeah, just not being able to share anything and tell anybody because everything has to be a secret. And I think too, like generationally, you don't, I think women of older generations got it in their head that they don't talk about it.
You're
like,
right.
Let's not talk about that.
Sweep that right under the rug. Yeah. No, it's so true. And I think that one of the most important points that I just heard you touch on, Kerri, was that sometimes as women, it's like we think we can be so good at speaking truth and pouring love and life into other women. And when it comes to ourselves, man, we are just our own worst enemies. We don't swallow the words that we feed to other people. We don't believe them for ourselves. That's often a lie that I come across is, well, that's true for her, or that's true for this person. But for me, not so much.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Kerri, I could do this all day with you, and I really could. This has been such an uplifting conversation for me, and I want to thank you so much for your vulnerability and your honesty and sharing with us today. And I want to do a couple of things as we close out today. One, I want you to leave the women listening with a bit of truth that you want them to, that you want to speak to them, but that you also want them to embrace as their own. And then, because people want more of you, and I always want more of you, we need to know how to get in touch with you, how to follow you, how to learn more about you, and how to work with you if that's something that somebody is interested in. So let's start with the truth. Tell us a little bit, what would you like our listeners and me to remember today about speaking truth to ourselves?
Speaking truth to ourselves. I would like to encourage women, a lot of what we were talking about, that you are worthy. You can do anything that you want to do. Don't go it alone.
Yeah.
For many, many years, I did try to go it alone, and I didn't want to reach out to people because then I thought they would think that I was stupid or I couldn't figure this out on my own. There was definitely things in my life that I would never have conquered if I wouldn't have reached out, including this. I did get some professional counseling several times in my life. I'm a big book reader or an Audible listener. I try to fill your mind with goodness, positivity. Trust your instinct.
Yeah.
So many times I didn't trust that gut instinct feeling and it came back to bite me. We're so much more equipped than we ever give ourselves credit for. And when those little voices from the outside or the inside start chiming in, have a conversation with yourself. I mean, I find myself talking to myself a lot.
Yes, me too.
You know, it's like the devil and the angel, and the devil saying, you can't do that. You've never done that before. How are you going to possibly do that?
Yeah.
And then the angel says, no, you know what? You can do that. So what if you fall down a little bit? We all learn everything we've ever done in life. We've done for the first time.
Yes.
You know, I tell people, they'll say, I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, well, did you think that when you were having your baby? You know, when you're raising your child, you never raised a child before. You know, everything that we've ever done we've done for the first time.
Yes.
It's one foot in front of the other. It's one little small thing. And it's that forward momentum. And if you have people in your life that are negative, if you have people in your life that are kind of pulling you back, I tell people all the time, maybe don't talk to them about that kind of stuff.
Right.
They love us. They're there to protect us.
But they're not going to speak truth into you.
Exactly. They're kind of holding you back for that safety's sake. And I would say definitely reading some great material, realizing that your brain is kind of there to protect you and keep you safe. To not, you know, when we start saying, I'm going to try this new, or, you know, I see people that want to do a completely different career change, or they want to get out of a marriage. Before we go through it, it's like this huge storm. Like we just can't see through it. Right. And then when you make that decision, it's like the sun is rising and it's a brand new day. And we're
There's clarity.
Why the heck did I wait so long?
Yeah.
To do it, and just do it. And one foot in front of the other. And nothing is etched in stone. You can always go back. You can always change direction. You come to a fork in the road. You know, maybe you linger there for a little while.
Yeah.
And maybe talk it out with a few of your really trusted girlfriends. And then, kind of decide from there. We don't have to have everything figured out all the time.
Yes. Hear, hear. Awesome. Oh my gosh. So much great stuff, Kerri. So tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and how they can check out what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm definitely huge on Facebook. So Kerri Spencer on Facebook. I also have Kerri's Avenue Salon business page. I am on Instagram as kerrispencer.live.
All right.
And I have a website getting ready to launch with my new decision to leave my big salon to my small suite. It's kerrimspencer.com.
Okay.
That should be live in a couple of days. Super excited about that.
Sweet.
And the way that I can work with people that are not in my local area would be through, if they need any help with their hair, I am definitely available to look at, do a web, do some kind of FaceTime so we can talk and chat. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I am recently getting into is some business coaching.
Okay.
Particularly in the salon industry, because that is my zone. That is where I am most comfortable with. I don't want to get too far off that path. So anybody that's struggling in some salon industry things, perhaps maybe just even figuring out how to talk to your staff or do some of those things, I'm willing to do that, come in, kind of do some of those things. However, the biggest bottleneck typically is the owner.
Yeah.
And I like to assess personality styles and then really break that down so that everybody in the arena there, like in a salon or any business, they're all speaking language that they can understand. Because the way I am, I'm so direct. But if I talk to somebody that's not direct, then I come off as pushy and bossy, things like that. So, and speaking anytime that somebody wants me to come around and share my story, let people know that they can overcome, that they don't have to be a part of, they don't have to stay stuck. Because statistically, coming from an abusive domestic household, and listen, I married two of them, and my third relationship was the worst of the worst of the worst. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because although I knew it was wrong, I kept repeating the cycle.
Yeah. And
I kept looking at my daughter and saying, I just had to do that. I had to break that cycle so that my daughter wouldn't do the same thing, get in the same stuff. I also feel like I can speak to that I'm alive and I'm here and I'm thriving in spite of it all.
Not surviving, thriving.
Yeah. And I want that message to be clear that, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It's about what's going on in the future and what you want to do, with your gifts and pushing forward. And those people in your life, like my mom tried to keep me in an abusive relationship because it was more safe for her.
Sure. Yeah.
And so for I think about 2 years after my marriage, I didn't even have a relationship with my mom because she was so hurt by that stuff. So I just couldn't be a people pleaser anymore. I had to please myself and I had to get out of it and do what I had to do. And anything is possible. And we don't need a lot of stuff. Yeah. And we don't need a lot of money. We just need ourselves and our contentment and our peace.
Yeah.
And then we can rebuild from there.
Which is priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Kerri, oh my gosh, we're going to have you back on to talk about breaking the cycle for another episode. That you've got so much more value and wisdom to share with me and the listeners. And I just thank you again so much. Just to recap, you guys, Kerri is telling you that you can do anything and you should never go it alone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So lock arms with Kerri today. Reach out to her. We'll include all of your links, Kerri, in the show notes for people to be able to just simply click and follow you. You're not going to want to miss her tough love Facebook Lives, that's for sure. Kerri, thank you so much again for taking time out of your day. I'm so blessed to know you and call you friend.
Thank you for having me. Can't wait to hear.
Yes. Bye, girl.
Bye.
As always, I'm humbled you chose to join me this week for Thriving Thoughts. It's women like you who listen, subscribe, and give us thoughtful reviews that allow our message of thriving in any and every circumstance to reach even more women who need a healthy dose of truth speaking. I'm Dr. Sherry, and I'm grateful to be your Thriving Thoughts host, where we're shifting perspectives and speaking life to you so you can thrive. Be sure to tune in next week and share this episode with a friend. Until then, remember, Overcome your little lies with big truths.